Yes. Evening, people. Welcome back to another stream. I promised you we would go live again this weekend, and we are live again. And we've managed to find Dara Rebel. A wild Dara Rebel is back. You've got the three amigos back together. Me, Dara, and Joe, the three originals. And we have big John Coster behind the scenes. John, unmute and say hello.
Let me unmute him.
Unmute John. Let him have an appearance.
What's this guy doing here?
Hey, everyone's crack.
No, mute him. No, mute. Okay, listen. Anyways, big weekend. Forget that guy. Big weekend in the world of Manchester City. We're just going to have a nice chat, a free-flowing stream, see what you guys have to say. I did a review of today's game up on the channel now. If you want to go back and hear my condensed thoughts, you can go back and watch that. Leave a like on that as well. But we want to hear what you guys, the chat, the fans of the world, if you're a rival fan, if you're a City fan, whoever you are, let us know your thoughts on the Arsenal draw with Brentford and, of course, our powerful win over Aston Villa today. Like I said, I did a condensed version of all my thoughts in the video, but we may as well air them out a little bit here, see what the two lads have to say, and we'll see what this means going into the game of the Emirates. Because in summary, for me, I think Arsenal are catching us at a bad time. I think they're catching us at the worst time they could possibly ask for. They're going through their biggest blip of the season. I don't think Arsenal are in crisis by any means. I don't think they've completely been derailed, but they're not mentally where they have been at previous stages of the season, so they would not like to face their biggest game of the season off the back of us having a passionate performance too. But listen, let's get into it, people. Make sure you smash the like button if you haven't done so already on this stream. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you're new. We're on the road to 6K. We're less than 500 away from 6K now. It feels like just yesterday I was pushing for 5K, so now we're pushing for 6K, and you lot can make that happen. But listen, lads, we all watched the game today. I was really happy with that. We asked for that all week. We said, as a fan base, we created that siege mentality. When it felt like the world was against us from the beginning, you know, the Premier League, rival fans, journalists, every Tom, Dick and Harry under the sun was saying, you're cheaters, you're liars, strip of your titles, go down to Vanarama, no one cares about City, even though you're showing you care about City. And we banded together. Pep made a fantastic press conference. He could have said no comment if the club made a statement. I'm going to stand by that statement. But he came out with passion, with personality and character. The last piece of the jigsaw was, would the players do so as well? Would the players reciprocate the energy that us as fans and Pep as the manager have shown this week? And I think it's fair to say, at the very least in the first half and a professional performance in the second half, they did so. This is what we wanted. This is exactly what we wanted all week. What more could we ask for, lads?
That was the best reaction we could have possibly gotten on the pitch ever, because they turned around today. They went out. Rodri scored after 3 minutes, 4 minutes. Like, it was straight away, no messing about. Got the corner. He scored off it. We meant business. You knew straight away we meant business, right? This is where everything gets turned on its head, in my opinion. Why can't we get allegations against us every week? Why can't we get like mad allegations against City every week? Because this is what it goes out and turns out. We looked as good as we have all season today. Whether that be the 45 minutes or not, we looked as good as we have all season. I thought at the start, De Bruyne looked a little bit hungry. He fell off a small bit, but I'll allow it. Haaland, again, he got that assist. That is an unbelievable assist. Don't even look at that and say that's not a difficult assist. That's not a striker's assist at all. If Kane does that, everyone's turning around calling him fucking better than Messi or something, because Kane gets all his plaudits for being a great link-up striker. That's one of the more difficult assists I've seen a striker get in years. I thought Grealish was very good. I was really impressed with Grealish. You know, he got onto it, he ran at it, man. I think Matty Cash came on, and he still gave him a hard time. I'm not sure. Did Cash come on after? I'm not 100%, but either way, he gave whoever was at right back a horrible time. He's starting to come into it. He's really starting to come in. I'm genuinely, and you know what? This man, where's Murray in relation to me?
He's two above.
Right, that bloke a couple of things up. He's stuck by him, right? And you know what? It's finally starting to pay off. You know, we hear some man making false claims about buying stocks and people, but Hugh Murray bought the stocks and he held on to the stocks. And
I bought them as soon as they were released. As soon as they entered the stock market,
we know exactly what you bought. We knew exactly what you bought when Josh Grealish signed.
That's one.
There's nobody else owns Grealish stocks, man. I own them all.
Like, I get them receipts.
How much they cost, bro?
Yeah, don't worry about that.
No, but seriously.
Listen, before we keep getting into it, I forgot to do it, as I always do. If you're early to the stream or you're here at the very start, I'll always give you a quick shout out. So we've got Fatine in the building, Megan, D1, Spice, Only Blue in the Village, Hugh Callahan, just all the usuals, all the regulars. If you're early to the stream, I'll always give you a quick shout out because we appreciate you coming in, liking the stream, and if you're subscribed and all that kind of stuff. So as you should know for future, if you're here early, you will get a quick shout out. Anyways, Joe, Rebel touched on a few players there, but what is your overall thoughts on today's performance? We have to talk about the madness that was, of course, Bernardo Silva, a player who does not want to be at the club. And can you blame him when he's a winger / midfielder being put in left back? But he was good.
I have receipts, and the guy below can testify for me that I called this before kickoff. I said, what are the odds on Bernardo Silva at left back? Because you only have to go back a couple of weeks where in one of his press conferences, Pep Guardiola said, there is a midfielder in the squad who can play as a left back, who you will find out. And we found out today, Bernardo Silva, genuinely, was he left back? He was absolutely everywhere. He was left back, he was central midfield, he was a holding midfield. I think he ended up on the wing when Mahrez went off and Ake came on. He was absolutely everywhere. And, I mean, it's wild because he doesn't want to be here, but that is the old Bernardo Silva. You called for it in your preview. You wanted the old Bernardo Silva back. And that was the old Bernardo Silva. He was everywhere again. And it's good to see that he's kind of seemingly put this behind him and sort of decided to kick on now, which I'm happy about because, I mean, we kind of need that. I wouldn't really be hanging my hat on Ilkay Gundogan from the rest of the season to play every game at a top level. But again, left back, I mean, is it kind of like a fuck you from Pep saying, why didn't you get me a left back? I'm going to stick someone else here to do that job. I don't know. I would like to see Ake come back in for Arsenal, obviously, because we need someone to deal with Bukayo Saka, and Ake did that the first time he played against Arsenal, so I would like to see that. But it's an experiment that has weirdly worked. We never often say about these Pep experiments. They never often work. But this one has worked. This one worked. It was really weird. Sometimes he was almost playing as a centre-back at times. It was really, really odd, but it worked. I guess this was almost kind of like a pretty good time to do it. I know Villa are mid-table and it's not the easiest team, but it's a game at home and, you know, he's not going to pull that out against Arsenal to try that. If he did, I think everybody would be kind of fuming just a little bit, but it worked. It was really odd. And obviously the first half was more of what we want to see. I think the second half was just the fact that we were 3-0 up. I think the two substitutions at half time kind of told the whole story. We were kind of just happy to sit there and keep the ball and just see the game out for 45 minutes. I think me and Revel both called this at half time. We said it was going to end 3-0, ended 3-1, so close enough. But we didn't think we were scoring again because we know that once it's 3-0 at half time, we tend to just see the game out. We don't really tend to, go and add more in the second half. So I'm not totally surprised by the second half, which is why I'm kind of judging the performance based more on the first half, because that is sort of more of what I expect to see in the bigger games where you have to play for 90 minutes instead of 45.
Beyond Belief says it was a back three, and Hugh Callahan says Laporte and Diaz are a cut above. When fit, these guys must start. We're way better with them in the side, and that is the next point I want to get onto, is the defense, the back four, the back three, whatever way you want to call it, whatever way we set up on a week-to-week basis. I have come to the realization, we've been saying for weeks now, we need Ruben Diaz back, we need his leadership. It's crystal clear now. There's absolutely no denying that the team overall is much, much better with Ruben Diaz, and even better again with Laporte too. I absolutely love John Stones, and I think John Stones can be part of that, two centre backs when he's fit and when he's firing. But how often is John Stones fit and firing? Not very regularly nowadays. Laporte and Diaz are absolutely those guys at centre half. Like, you kind of can see the contrast between when Diaz is on the pitch versus when Diaz is off the pitch, and it has an overall effect on the whole team. People seem to think that centre halves only impact the defensive side of things and, defending set pieces and breaking up attacks. Having a top quality centre half, a leader behind you that you trust, is going to make you feel more comfortable as a striker, as a winger, as a midfielder, to take more risks, to express yourself more, and to just play with more freedom in general. It's quite clear that when Ruben Diaz is on the pitch, our midfielders are willing to take more risks. They're willing to play those killer passes they haven't done in recent weeks. It's quite clear the wingers are willing to bomb up the pitch further than they have done in recent weeks too. And then you contrast that to when Akanji came on the second half, and all of a sudden we look a lot more cagey. We're not willing to play those penetrating passes. We're not putting those balls over the top anymore, which is something Laporte offers that Akanji or Ake can't seem to offer. Now, I'm with you that I would like Akanji to play at left back on Wednesday at the Emirates. Equally, I wouldn't be fuming. I would not be fuming if he put Bernardo there again on Wednesday, genuinely, because Bernardo was that good today. He was absolutely everywhere. If you could guarantee me another performance from Bernardo like that, if not slightly better on Wednesday, I'm quite satisfied. But you also have to take comfort from the fact that Ake has locked down Saka already, so you kind of lean maybe more towards that, because Bernardo defensively, we just don't know. Is it worth taking the defensive risk with Bernardo there and Grealish in front of him? I'm not so sure. It's a lot of work for two attacking players to do a defensive role. But you see what I mean? Laporte as a ball player, he comes out with the ball, he plays balls over the top, he's quicker, snappier passes into the midfielder's feet, into the winger's feet. Haaland drops deep into his feet. Akanji doesn't have that in his locker, and I know Rebel wants to talk about Akanji, and we will. I like him. I think he's a good placeholder, as he was brought in to be. He was brought in to be someone who plays when Diaz, Stones, Laporte aren't fit. Even when Ake is not fit, that's his role, and he's done that okay up until now. But our overall game does suffer when Manuel Akanji is in the centre-half position. These two guys that you saw today, they are them, as Rebel says. They are those guys. He is him. Rebel.
One man I want to say is not him, man. It actually does. It really does pain me to say. Manuel Akanji, I'm sorry, he's not that guy. But I will put it into perspective. We bought him for 15 million quid. It's not like we went out and spent.
Oh, it's great
100 million. Yeah, we went out and it's not like we spent 100 million quid. This guy's the next best thing. Like, he is a well-established centre half who's been tried at right back, been tried at centre back, and he just doesn't have the quality that the other two. But if we didn't have him throughout the season, we'd be fucked. We'd be fucked by now if we didn't have him throughout the season. Do you know who would have been fitting in the centre back? Kyle Walker would have been fitting in the centre back.
No, you would have put Rodri, and then you'd put Gundo in 6, which we've seen once this season, and it was a complete flop.
There you go. So what would you rather, Manuel Akanji or that? You'd rather Akanji 100% of the time. Akanji started off his career at City really, really well. He was the best defender in our squad at the start of the season, and I'll say that with chest, yeah. At the start of the season, first few games, maybe par and par with Ake, he was him. He was up there. I actually think since then, every part of his game has gone down. I thought he was really exposed at Anfield. Anfield was really the turning point where I was like, this guy is a bit shaky. He's a little bit shaky. But I mean, his passing has dropped off completely. Like you just mentioned it there. I saw him.
He's not a ball player, Akanji. Like he's not.
No, you'd expect him to be there. Is the thing you'd expect.
I know that, but to play in this City team, and a thriving Pep Guardiola City team, your two centre halves have to be at the very least competent and quick on the ball. Diaz isn't as good as Laporte and Stones at it, but he's good enough and compensates for what he's not good at with those qualities of leadership. And someone makes a good point in the chat here. Who is it? Caldoon Driller says the freedom with which Rodri went ahead in the first half with Ruben Diaz behind him was noticeable. That's what I'm saying. Big up Caldoon Driller, the Dune man. You can see it. Rodri looks so much more comfortable. Bernardo, when he's in that kind of double pivot inverted beside Rodri, he looks more comfortable picking up the ball. Do you guys remember the Old Trafford game where Bernardo was playing a role like that? He had to drop really deep to pick up the ball off of Akanji and Ake, and you could tell he wasn't comfortable with it. You could tell he didn't like it because he knows if he fucks up one bit and we get dispossessed, all of a sudden Rashford or whoever else is in on top of Ake and Akanji. Now, I'm not saying that they're not good enough to defend, but it's just not as comforting. It doesn't have that extra layer of comfort as, yeah, Ruben fucking Diaz is behind me. I can take these risks here. I can do something that really might benefit us going forward. So having those two guys, man, Joe, you have to be on the same wavelength here, I assume, about the centre halves.
I mean, the one thing about Kanji is, and this has been a theme with a lot of the players, as soon as we've come back from the World Cup, a lot of players have just taken a step down in terms of performances. Kanji is one of those players where he's come back and it's like, what have you done with the real Akanji? Like, what have you done with the before the World Cup Akanji? Because he was really good. He was starting a lot of those games for us, and then he comes back and it's just sort of a bit meh. It's not like overly poor. It's just a bit meh. It's like he doesn't seem to want to jump into any challenges. He doesn't seem to make an attempt to win the ball at times. He's passing. I mean, there was one today. There was a pass he tried to play forwards, giving it straight to Villa, and they almost scored and made it 3-2. And at that point, you're panicking because it's 3-2. Villa have got all the momentum. There's sort of 10, 15 minutes left in the game. Thankfully, he didn't go in. They fucked it. But it's moments like that where if he's playing against Arsenal, he does that against Arsenal. Arsenal are going to punish us for that. If he gives the ball away, trying to pass it forward, so he gives the ball away in our midfield, trying to pass it forwards, Arsenal are going to capitalise on that. You can't afford for him to do that. So I don't know what it is. I'm not too annoyed because we paid peanuts for him. So I'm really not too annoyed because this is the sort of level that I kind of expected from the get-go of he's not going to be all that great, but he's serviceable. He'll do a job. And that's kind of what he is at the moment. He's serviceable. He will do you a job. If you put him in there, he will do a job. But he's not, he's not going to be at sort of that level that he was before the World Cup. And I don't know whether that's because what we expected was so low that he just exceeded our expectations or what it is. I genuinely don't know what it is. But, I mean, based on what we see right now from him, you can't trust him. You have to play Ruben Diaz. I understand that he was taken off because he got a yellow card in the first half, which is understandable. I don't understand that yellow card rule, by the way. The third player to crowd a referee.
That's been something over the weekend. We have to talk about that. It's a fucking joke.
The third player to come up to a referee to talk to him about the decision he's just made gets a booking. I don't understand. That's never been a rule as far as I'm concerned. You see players crowd the referee all the time. I don't know when they decided on that one. So
if that is the rule, Bruno Fernandes is permanently suspended. Suspended.
No, exactly. He just be the first one up to them.
The alleged rule is that has only been in place this weekend. No, because it's only been in place this weekend. You haven't seen it before this game week. Is the first player is allowed to come up, the second player is allowed to be booked, the third player will be booked. That is the apparent rule. I've never known that in my entire life. So Ruben Diaz gets taken off at half time because he's on a booking. You don't want to risk it. Akanji comes on, and like you said, we stop taking those risks. Rodri drops further back. Bernardo drops further back. The wingers drop further back. Everyone drops sort of like 5 to 10 yards further back because we're kind of like, Akanji's here. We don't have that leader in the back. And it's just, again, he's serviceable. He is serviceable. He will be used, but it's not like we're never going to see him again. John Stones has made biscuits, so we will have to be called upon at times. But he's not. He can't play the big games, especially now when you see, obviously, you see Ruben Diaz and Laporte in the first half. The fact that the levels went up so much to the point of where we played with 3 defenders. Bernardo Silva was at left back, and we still looked relatively comfortable at the back in terms of we didn't look like we were going to concede anything like clear cut. So. Yeah, those two kind of have to play, especially when Stones is out. You have to play Laporte. We need someone who can play with the ball at the feet. You have to have one of them. You have to have one of them. And the fact that Stones is always injured and Pep seems to prefer having a left footer for a lot of these games does guide you to the fact that he would prefer Laporte. But then again, there's the whole situation of, if you look a little bit further on down the line, he's only got a couple of years on his contract. Will he sign a new one? If not, you're looking at having to replace.
Kieran in the chat has been saying it all year, especially this weekend, referees are useless. Some of the refereeing decisions this season and this weekend have been appalling. I mean, we'll get into the impact of Arsenal's result to us against Brentford yesterday, but they were fairly fucked over by the VAR and the refereeing decisions, that goal. I mean, in the balance of things, Brentford created more chances and whatnot, but we'll get into that. There's a lot of...
I'll speak about it when we get on to it. It's fine.
We'll get into Arsenal Brentford and the impact of that on us. But there's a lot of love in the chat for Kyle Walker here. D1 says, I love Kyle Walker, top player. Leo Roysane says Walker is underrated. Hugh says Walker was quality today. And he's someone that we probably should touch on because Pep talked about him after the game. Pep says he's really happy with the improvements that Kyle Walker has made. This isn't quote for quote. I just kind of got the gist of what he was saying. Apparently in training, he's looked a lot better. Apparently his body language, which is something Pep has talked about a lot recently, is looking a lot better. And I think it's fair to say that reflected on the pitch as well today. Kyle Walker was pretty excellent, and I think it doesn't come as a complete coincidence that Kyle Walker starts to look better beside 2 centre halves that he absolutely trusts. This just refers back to the point that we made originally, which is having 2 centre halves that everybody trusts and everybody knows what they're capable of makes the whole team play better. I think Kyle Walker did his job perfectly today, and everybody looked a little bit more shaky as soon as Akanji came onto the pitch. I don't want to sit here and make this an Akanji slander stream because it's not. We all know he's serviceable, he was bought for buttons, and he does the job that he was brought in to do. But unfortunately, in these tough games, these pressurizing games, Akanji's not that guy. He's just not that guy. So listen, and also with the goal for Akanji, he just stopped running. Ruben Diaz puts in a challenge there. Ruben Diaz is happy to take the risk of conceding a penalty on the basis that he might get away with not conceding the goal. Akanji just stopped and said, no, you can have the shot, work away. So listen, these are the differences. These are the differences that separate you from winning a title or losing a title. Listen, there's nearly 50 people in the building right now. Thank you all for coming in, and I see all of you sharing your thoughts. I'll continue to read out some of your chats as we go along. Make sure you smash that like button. It massively helps our channel, and subscribe to the channel if you are new. We're on our road to 6K. We may as well talk a bit about the midfield, because I think we could sit here all day and all night and say how good an overall performance was, because it's kind of hard to pinpoint anybody and say they had a bad game. But listen, we have to go back to a conversation that Joe seems to get very vexed about on a weekly basis before we stop streaming for a while, which is Kevin De Bruyne, man. He looked a bit back today. He looked a bit like that guy. For me, he looked good, Revel. He looked good.
He looked good. He did not even try to he's back.
Listen, he was very good. For me, it looked a lot like he took being dropped at Tottenham last week personally. He took that to heart and he said, oh, so you don't think I'm that guy anymore? Maybe he wasn't at his beautiful, beautiful best today, but that's how high standards we have for Kevin De Bruyne. But today, I'm not accepting anything other than the fact that he was very good. Some of the things he was doing, like in the first half particularly, when he did have the comfort of the big dogs behind him, he was able to be more like himself. Dropping deep, linking a play, his passing, balls over the top, balls in behind, and that one moment that we all saw where he dinked it by the player and went and got it again. Like that's class. That's entertaining. That gets you off your seat. Joe, chat to me about De Bruyne.
Yeah, come to me first.
If you look at Krabby Patty line, I'm going to kill you. That's my line. I've been saving it for the stream.
I don't know what you're on about, you absolute child.
I said it to you earlier.
Anyway, moving on from this child and his TV references. Listen.
Didn't even watch SpongeBob.
I made the player ratings. If any of you watched the review, the player ratings would have been scrolling throughout that. I gave him a 7. I'm not going to sit here and I'm not going to say he was bad. I'm not going to sit here and I'm not going to overly criticise because we won the game and there was no glaring flaw that jumps out to me. Am I going to say that he was class? No. Because I don't think he was. Was he good? Yeah. Was it an improvement on himself recently? Yes. But the bar was pretty low. But this is like, in terms of his standards, it's an average game. In terms of his standards, it was average. But we know he hasn't been at his standards recently. So when you put that into context, it was a good game. There was a lot of things that I liked. The whole, that dribble, I think it was in the first half where he knocks it past a couple of players and there just carries on go with it. Like that is something that has been missing a little bit. I think the one thing that still annoys me is the crossing, genuinely. The only thing that I can say is the crossing. Genuinely. Stop laughing. Stop laughing.
Oh, man. The chat are killing me, man. The chat are roasting you. Joe. Joe is killing me. Go back with the agenda. Always, man. Joe Gender. A Joe Gender. I like it, man.
I'm sticking.
A Joe Gender.
I am sticking.
Listen, I don't even disagree with him, so I'm just going to bite my tongue.
You bite your tongue. I think he was good today. He was much better considering how he has been. I will drop the agenda and say he was good today. Stop screeching like a... Swear to God, I can't have anything. I'm going to stop speaking on this man altogether because I can't say anything good or bad.
Man. The people don't like it. The people don't like when you slander De Bruyne.
I can't say anything bad because apparently I'm wrong, and then I can't say anything good because everyone just laughs at me because apparently I'm not being kind enough. I'm not being kind enough. Listen, I expect fucking world class week in, week out from someone who I see consistently getting compared to David Silva and Yaya Toure. That is my expectations. And if he doesn't meet those expectations, it's either average or poor. That is how I hold him. That is my standard for him. And that standard isn't going to change because if people want to talk about him like that, he's got to meet that standard.
Megan Rock says you look a bit like Mark Goldbridge, Joe.
Listen, I don't care if I look like Mark Goldbridge. My fucking takes are way better than his. I cannot stand him.
You're like the way Mark Goldbridge is with Harry Maguire. You just hate him. You just absolutely hate him.
He pisses me off. I'm sick of him fucking crosses out for goal kicks.
Listen, man, De Bruyne is a club legend, yeah? He's an absolute legend, and he was good today. He was good today.
Listen, are you going to... come on, right, he's a club legend. Are you going to try and say that I don't think he's a club legend? Are you going to go that far, are you? Are you going to go that
far? I'm sorry, yeah. That's channel, like, heritage right there. That is...
Joe, he looks a bit like Mark Goldbridge, man. Megan, you killed me here because your opinion is tainted with your agenda. Oh, here he says, Joe.
I don't. I say what I see. I say what I see. I just said he was good today. I'm getting. God, I have an agenda, even though I said he was good today.
Because as soon as you opened your mouth about Bruyne, everybody was like, "Oh, here we go again."
Fucking hell!
I don't have no agenda.
Listen, people,
I say what I see.
Listen, there's 60 of you in the building. Keep smashing the likes, man. Keep liking the video if you haven't done so already, and subscribe to the channel if you're new. If you want your daily, your weekly or / daily KDB agenda from Joe, make sure you're subscribed to the channel and you've got your notification bells on. Lee Johnson says, "Young Goldbridge."
This isn't the worst thing he's been called on stream though. Which is
I've been called
Goldbridge, man. Leo Roy says, Leo Roy's backing you up here, Joe. He says he got a point though. KDB being mid, bro.
He's dead right. He's speaking.
Because you can laugh at me all you want, but I think I am objective for the most part. I think I am correct. He has been pretty poor as of recently, but again, he was good today. Why am I getting shit? Why am I getting called an agenda? I literally just said the man's good. Am I not allowed to praise him now? Have I just got to shit on him constantly? Say he's shit every week.
Yeah, that's what we're going to do.
Pac-Man says Little Bridge.
So I'm getting comparisons to a successful man.
Young Bridgie, man. Listen, if Joe can earn our channel the peas that Mark Goldbridge earns, I'll let him be the young Mark Goldbridge. That's absolutely no problem. If you bring the views that Mark Goldbridge brings, that's perfectly okay. Listen, no, I think people... Joe, he may have a bit of a KDB agenda, but it comes from a good place. It comes from the heart, yeah. He just wants the best for Kevin De Bruyne and the best for our club. But listen, we'll leave Kevin De Bruyne there. We'll move on to the front three, and then we'll talk about the league and Arsenal's result and whatnot. The front three, lads, really quickly, I think they're very good today. Grealish, unlucky not to get a goal. Great save for that shot from Emi Martinez. Mahrez was decent. The penalty situation is a bit weird, but listen, he scored it, so it is what it is. No point in crying over spilt milk kind of thing. Lee Johnson says, reminds me of Ty from AFTV. Listen, Ty's class, man.
Where's a card? Where's a card?
So happy I'm back, you know. This is unbelievable.
What are we saying, people? The front three today: Haaland, Grealish. Haaland went off at half-time. Is anybody concerned about him going off? He got a bit of a knock in that clash, which I don't understand. I don't understand how on God's earth that is a foul against Erling Haaland. We live in the goalkeeper's world. I'm telling you, this world we are in right now belongs to goalkeepers. You can't touch them without conceding a free kick or a penalty or whatever. You can't not give a foul against them. But apparently he picked up a knock in that situation. He was holding his leg. He went off at halftime. Is anybody concerned, or do we think he'll be calm for Wednesday?
I was only saying it earlier in the Discord. I now look, I'm a master of pessimism. I have been for as long as you man have known me, yeah. But I just don't think it's gonna work. If it was purely anyone else, it'd be gone. Yeah, he'd probably be fit. There's just something stinky about the Arsenal game. Every time we play a game crucial to the title, someone is injured. Like you think back the last few years, Liverpool at Anfield, Edison was injured. Like who else? How many other players we had injured? We have multiple.
Walker.
Aguero was out about 7 years straight for title rages because his knees are made of cheddar cheese. Like there was always a player missing in a title contingent game. But you know what? Yeah. You know what? In that case, I'd love to see the false nine be brought back. I would. I think I would deserve it.
I don't think we need to. I think if we play the exact same way we did today, but just put Alvarez in for Haaland, Alvarez still bags. Alvarez still has the same.
It's a huge golfing class. Like I mean, I don't mean to be. I'm not starting my own agenda here, but I think Alvarez, maybe not since the World Cup. I don't even know when. He's just looked a little bit stagnant maybe since before the break, because you know how he ended. Now this could just be me looking at how he ended going into the World Cup, where he looked really, really, really good. He was getting a few games together because Haaland wasn't playing, but then maybe it's since his game time's got a bit broken up. Since
you know exactly why. Do you know exactly why? And people forget about this all the time. He never had a break. True. He hasn't had a summer break. The man's been playing football for the whole calendar year, and he's still got another 6 months to go.
Yeah, that's it as well. But I'm not trying to start. I think he's going to be unbelievable. I think we'll be lucky to hold on to him. I think that's the level he's at. He's so good. But I mean, you have to just turn around. Like there's a man who turned around and think he's the best thing since sliced bread. He hasn't done anything since the World Cup. I wouldn't be too confident lining up in a game with him there. I wouldn't be, and it's not because of that and that I think he's shit. I think he's unreal. I think he's going to be world class. But right now, it was like when we lined up against Tottenham the other week without the Bruyne. Do you think I cared? I couldn't give a shit. If they're on form, they start. And look, he's not on form. I'd rather. But at the same time, that being said, I don't want Foden sitting there. He hasn't done that for 2 months either. So
listen, the people in the chat seem to think Haaland's going to be all right. Sophie says it was a dead leg. I think he'll be back. Megan says hopefully not out for a month. Hugh says I think Haaland will be good. I think he'll be all right. I think if it was ending series, we probably know a little bit more about it by now, and it would have looked a lot worse. I mean, he got the knock 20 minutes into the game and played a further 26, 27 minutes after that. I mean, it looked kind of okay. So it's not the end of the world, but I genuinely think that if we play the same way we did today as an overall team, but throw Alvarez in at number 9, I get that Alvarez doesn't have the same impact just yet that Haaland does, but if you create the out-and-out chances for him, I think he's going to put them to bed the same way, or as close to the same way as possible that Haaland would.
I'm not making a face at you. I'm just checking the group. I'm just checking the chat.
I slightly disagree with that statement, to be honest. I mean, maybe just my judgment is misguided, given the last time I saw him play was against Spurs. But against Spurs, his finishing was horrible. His shooting was horrible against Spurs. It was terrible.
I think he's right. He was working for NASA for a while.
He put a few over the bar. He hit the crossbar at one point, I think. Like, his shooting against Spurs was horrible.
Mahrez hit the crossbar. I think Alvarez was closer to hitting people in the crowd than the crossbar, funny enough.
Alvarez is, again, it might just be a misjudgment because it's Spurs and everyone was shit against Spurs. So you kind of disregard that. But I think the only goal I can remember, I'm probably missing one, but the only goal since the World Cup I can remember is he scored a penalty against Chelsea in the FA Cup. Has he scored another one? I might check that, actually. That's a good one to check.
I actually don't think he has.
Because I don't know whether he has.
What's his MPG?
Oh, NPG. I think that might be the last time he scored. I'm going to check. Because this is a...
Sophie says Alvarez will be fine if he has to come back. He will fetch the press. I'm not saying he'll have the exact same impact that Haaland would. I just think it's sufficient. I think it's serviceable, as we said. I think it'll do the job. I don't think it's worth fearing. I don't think we'll go back to a false 9.
It's definitely serviceable.
Definitely serviceable. Pac-Man says, calm down, Goldbridge. Not everything's bad.
Joe's not even giving him stick. I started this and Joe's the one getting sick.
He scored against Chelsea in the FA Cup third round, and he scored against... Sorry, I was there for that one. I actually forgot. He scored against Spurs when we actually beat him 4-2. But apart from that, a couple of goals since the World Cup.
When did he score against Chelsea? Or
FA Cup.
Chelsea against Tottenham?
When we beat him 4-2.
All right, listen. Let's park this Alvarez thing to bed. I think we started a conversation that we don't need to have, but people have unanimously agreed that Joe is the chat's popping off with Goldbridge, right? Calm down, Goldbridge. Not everything's bad.
You bloody prat! You bloody prat!
Jay Millsy says 90s Goldbridge. Goldbridge hates Argentina.
Everybody hates.
Right, listen, we'll get into it. We'll get into the title talk now because that's what we're all here for, isn't it? Arsenal have left the door open for us. That was a title on one of the videos recently. Great title from Joe, by the way. Arsenal have once again left the door open for us. They have dropped points. We are now 3 points behind them. You see the league table beside us. They are on 51. We are on 48. Yes, they have a game in hand, but this is psychological warfare, people. They're getting a little bit nervous, getting a little bit shaky. I said it. We've been saying it all along, haven't we? And we've been very calm under the knowledge that once the pressure gets going and the business end of the season kicks in and every single team you play for has a reason to want to beat you, Everton, fighting for their lives, that point was going to mean the world to them, and they went and beat you. Brentford, in the running for European places, meant the world to them. Good team. They beat us. They've taken points off big teams this season. They came and got a point off Arsenal. The pressure is on, and Arsenal wilted that little bit. Like I said at the start of the video, I don't think Arsenal have cracked completely. I don't think they've derailed and they've crumbled and they won't be in this running for the title. But they've got a little bit of a taste of humble pie. I said on the Big Six a long time ago, I said, the sun is shining over the Emirates. It's all sunshine and rainbows. Everything is great. No adversity. They're beating teams. They're playing great football, scoring great goals. The Ashburton Army, the atmosphere is great. It's just a sunny place. It was a great place to be at the Emirates. You move into the business end of the season where the Sharks and the water, Manchester City wake up and start to go, right, we need to kick into gear now. the pressure's on. Arsenal go, okay, it's getting a little bit tough now. We haven't felt this kind of pressure. City still aren't playing their best, but they're keeping thereabouts. They've tasted a little bit of what pressure looks like, and it's only going to get worse. Like I said a few minutes ago, I think they're facing us on Wednesday at the worst time they could possibly ask for. Genuinely, the worst time, where their confidence is probably at an all-time low for this season, and our confidence is probably at an all-time high. And I don't mean because we've been on a run of form or that we're absolutely trashing teams. I just mean with the week we've had and the way we reacted at the end of the week with the performance today, it's quite clear that this team has come together and is ready to go, right, we're really fucking going for this. Everybody's invested. Everybody's on the same page. It feels like City are clicking. Our City back. The title of the stream, Our City back, because that looked like the most City performance we've possibly seen all season in the first half. So my question to you, chat, are Arsenal facing us at the worst time they could possibly ask for? I think they may say no, and some might say yes. I think it's somewhere possibly in between. Like, it's not a good time for them to face us, is it?
No, not at all. Not at all. When you have this this going on in the background, all this legal shite going in. We're not going into it. We're leaving it here. But that is all this mad legal shite going on in the background. You think players' heads are going to turn, but I mean this in the most respectful way possible. I think that atmosphere today was the best we have had in months. Maybe even
Rodri said it.
Maybe even since Villa's maybe even since the last Villa game. That could have genuinely been the best, because I was there was a part I went on a walk. I think it was about 20 minutes into the match, right? And I had my headphones on because I was listening to it, and you could actually, like, the things nearly broke. Like, it was unbelievable. All the chance of, like, we don't condone this, but the chance of the fuck the Premier League and that type of stuff, like, everyone was in on it. Like, everyone was like riled up from the last week of what happened, and you think. That helps the players. Of course it helps the players. That rubs off on them unbelievably. You think they put out that performance without the fans there? The fans today were unbelievable. Unbelievable. That's what I'm saying. This is when everything... This is why I said it's a turning point. This is going to be the kick into gear where everyone goes. Everyone, players, fans, staff, faculty alike go, fuck. This is where we have to do it. This is where we turn it on. This is where we go. Listen, we're those guys. We're going to... I'm going to say it with chest, yeah? I'm going to say it with chest. Before you go on, Murray, we're going to win the league.
When people talk about, and we have spoken about for years, this hoodoo we have with playing Tottenham. Sometimes we lose at home, but we never win away. We don't even score away. The way there's a hoodoo, years and years of going to White Hart Lane and never winning. I'm going to give you a stat here. Arsenal haven't beaten Manchester City in the league since 2015. 2015, they haven't beaten us in the league. So they have another psychological barrier here. They've lost to Everton. They've drawn with Brentford. City have found quite clearly a new lease of life. And they have to face a team on Wednesday night that they haven't beaten since 2015. You're naive to think that these things don't come into account and don't matter a toss. This is a big deal for them, an absolutely massive deal for them. Someone asked me in the chat, would I take a draw? They prefer a win. I would absolutely love a win. Obviously, I would love it if we beat them. But think about it. I don't think it is the end of the world if we get a draw. I really don't, because I firmly believe, and I'm going to say it right here, right now, the same way I've said it before, Arsenal will drop more points. They will drop more points. Arsenal have to face this Villa team. Arsenal have to face most Big Six teams again. They have some big, big games. And we don't know how they're going to handle the pressure of these big games. They've already showed facing a team with a new manager bounce who are fighting for their lives in the relegation battle. It didn't do them well. Everything's not shining for Arsenal right now. It doesn't look as sunshine and rainbows as it has done previously. Is it going to get worse? Is it going to spiral out of control? I don't know. I'm just offering possible scenarios, whereas we are hopefully clicking a little bit here. I really think we're clicking a little bit here. Joe, get involved with this title conversation and what Wednesday means and what the whole weekend has meant.
Am I back to me or am I still Matt Goldbridge?
Yeah, go on, Goldbridge.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, bloody brat.
You're getting called Bernardo here, you know.
Yeah, you're being called Bernardo.
In the building, man.
You're being called Bernardo.
The
Irish Bernardo.
Come on.
Are you going to address the Irish Bernardo?
I'll fucking take it. But I'm not fucking leaving. I'm staying here.
What's my comparison, man? That's really.
You don't have a fucking comparison. The closest you've
ever.
The closest you've ever got is Foden. The closest you've ever got is Foden.
That was when I had my hair really tight. I had my hair just for context because now it's beautiful.
Let me interject with a good comment here, lads, and then we'll get back to you now in a sec, Joe. You can talk on this bit. Daps, a little bit of this, a little bit of Daps, new channel. People, go and show love. That's Daps' new channel in the chat there. A little bit of this, a little bit of Daps. Go and show love and subscribe to that if you've not done so. so already. Plenty of City content coming your way from him. He says, I said to all them Arsenal lot that losing to us in the FA Cup was an opportunity missed to overcome another mental hurdle. Since that game, they haven't won. I said this as well, Dapt. I was all over this. I said, because we know this from experience, that in these title races, it doesn't matter the competition. When you're playing every 3 or 4 days, it's literally just about repetition. Repetition. Win, win, win. Build momentum. Keep building on it. You don't want any stumbling blocks in the dressing room. You don't want those players to taste defeat at all. You want them to just get into an autopilot mode of win. And they have the arrogance to tell us we're going to put out our B team to focus on the league. Look what putting out your B team, your alleged B team, has done to you. You went and lost to Everton and you drew with Brentford. Stumbling blocks have been given to you and you did not deal with them. That was arrogance on your part to say that and to tell us that we put out our strongest team when our strongest team took to the pitch today. Levels to this, absolute levels to this. I think Dapt is spot on there, and I think we're all in agreement. 70 in the building, people. Keep running up the likes. Smash the like button if you haven't done so, and subscribe if you're new. Joe, I think it's a good point, and I think these Arsenal fans, like I said, they've tasted just a little bit of humble pie and what it's like to be in the mix with the Sharks, the big dogs, Manchester City.
That and the fact how we've been saying for quite a while that, well, the entire season we've been going on and on and on and on about these tests that Arsenal have to face of how do they bounce back from losing, how do they play against the big teams, how do they play away from home against the big teams, etc. How do they play against teams at the bottom of the league who are fighting for their lives. This is the one thing that, we're kind of waited until about now to figure out is, how do they react to the business end? How do they react to sort of the last 10, 15 games of the season? How do they play because they play the same team every week. They don't rotate very many players unless they've got an injury. They play the same team most weeks. That'll probably change with the Europa League coming in. I imagine they'd rotate a little bit and play a B team in the Europa League, but up until this point in the season, they've played pretty much the same team week in, week out, every game, and it's almost looks like it's coming back to bite them a little bit. It looks like the spark's gone, the energy's gone, and there's a little bit of bounce.
They are losing their heads as well.
Zinchenko lost a rag. Yeah, I saw he lost a rag the other day.
He's got no Fernandinho to calm him down. He doesn't have that senior presence. That Arsenal team is young. Club captain Martin Odegaard, I think he's 21, 22, something like that. They're a young side. They don't really have many players like a Fernandinho who can come and settle it down, calm their heads. If they lose their heads, there's a very good chance that spreads because their squad isn't experienced and doesn't have a lot of senior players who have been through a lot, been through the highest level, the ups and the downs. So it looks like mentally something's gone. You can see it with Arteta on the sideline as well. He's jumping for joy and he's outside his technical area for 90 minutes. He's waving his arms about and flailing about and shouting at the fourth official. The heads have gone a little bit. The form has dropped. They look a little bit tired. They've had a couple of injuries now. Obviously, Gabriel Jesus is still out for them. And this is not over. It's not they're going to totally capitulate, but these are the sort of tests that we were waiting to see whether they pass. You couldn't say whether they were going to pass this test until it actually happened, and this is one that I think they're currently failing, which is the whole squad rotation. We said their squad was weak and they needed improvements. They went out and got Trossard in January, which improved them up front, but I still think they're lacking. To my knowledge, they didn't get a midfielder, someone who can cover one of Xhaka or Partey. They didn't get that. I don't think they signed a defender either. They just don't have that overall squad depth of quality. We know our squad depth is, it's a relatively small squad, but it's sort of packed with quality. We've never really had that, big 23, 24 squad size. We've always had sort of an 18-man squad that's just packed of talent that would start for a lot of these other Premier League teams. Arsenal don't have that. It looks like it's catching up with them a little bit, and we saw it last season, albeit a little bit later on into the season, that they crumbled. They crumbled under the pressure, top four pressure. They lost against Spurs. They lost against Newcastle. They completely bottled it at the end of the season. Are we seeing the same thing here? I don't know. I think it's too early to tell. For them, they've still got 17 games to go. There's still a lot of football to be played. They can recover. It's theirs to lose still. If they beat us, then it's still technically in their hands. But with the way that they're playing, and I can't really say the way we're playing because it's one game. It's only been one game. It's only been Villa. But if we keep that up, it's not good for Arsenal. It's really not good, and I do think it's a bad time for them to play us. It's like Embargo City just hit different. step it up a gear for some reason. Like, it's just something about
Convict City hits different. Listen, there was 80 people in the building there a second ago, about 60 likes. So if you haven't done so, do smash the like. Genuinely, it really helps and it's free to do. So just smash that thumbs up button. It helps massively. And keep letting me know your thoughts. I'm reading your chats as they're coming in about Arsenal, about the league. Does it come across like we're just trying to slander Arsenal here, or are we talking sense? Because I think we're talking sense. I think genuinely we're talking sense. And Joe made a good point there a second ago, which was they bottled the league before. They have a very young team, or they bottled, top four before. They have a very young team. This experience this season that they're getting will benefit them massively, like I say, next season, the season after, and they'll learn from it. But what people underestimated massively was, particularly in the first half of the season, when Arsenal were playing class, we were, 1 week great, 1 week poor. People just assumed City had fallen off. And people didn't take into account the fact that City know when to click into gear. The main thing for us was we kept ourselves in the race. We kept on their tails. We kept sticking at it. We didn't let them get out of arm's length, basically. We let them feel like they're doing great, which they were, but we didn't let it get out of hand. We stuck close to them so that when it gets to the scary hours, the business hours, we can pounce and click and catch them and make them and suffocate them, essentially, make them realize that they're dealing with the big dogs here. We're big bro in this situation and we have to show it. But as I said last week, it means absolutely nothing if we, beating Villa today, them dropping points to Brentford, if we don't go and continue this form and get at the very least a draw on Wednesday. I've already said it. I take a draw, but I want to win. And I think a win is there for us. If we were to beat Arsenal on Wednesday, I'm telling you they crumble. They collapse. They derail. I already said a few minutes ago, I don't think they fully collapsed. They haven't crumbled entirely. They haven't been derailed. They're still good. They still can achieve great things. But if they were to lose to Everton, draw to Brentford, and then lose to us in their own patch, that's a big, big psychological blow for them. A big, big hit. 3 games without a win. One of them a loss to your main title rivals. That's a big, big blow for Arsenal. So I think we have to go with the plan of winning. They need to bounce back and regain their form and their confidence and absolutely everything they've had this season. But it's not that easy. It's not that easy to do. When you've been humbled and you're a young team with inexperience, it's not easy to get yourself back on track. It's an opportunity for them and it's an opportunity for us. I've no doubt that this is going to be an absolute blockbuster of a game on Wednesday night. I'm so excited for it and I'm backing a City win. What are you going to say?
I was going to say, I saw Dan had a comment there about how Arsenal aren't breaking down a low block very well. I will say that's because people didn't take them seriously enough to play the low block. Now they've started playing the low block. Arsenal cannot break it down. They don't have it might be, I don't think they don't have the quality. I think they have the quality. They will eventually have the quality to break it down. But at this current moment, there's something missing going forward. And I'll be honest with you, I don't think it's Gabriel Jesus missing that they're missing.
I think it is. I think it is. I think it is.
You think it's Gabriel Jesus?
Nketiah doesn't link up the play.
Joe, we had Gabriel Jesus up front.
No, but right. But Martinelli's form has dropped off because Gabriel Jesus isn't linking. There's no Gabriel Jesus to link him up. Nketiah doesn't like drift and drop into the little holes to come and link up with Martinelli, Saka, Ødegaard, because they don't play like 2 attacking midfielders. They play Granit Xhaka. Like, he's not an attacking midfielder. He's more of a box-to-box, a bit deeper. So they almost just have that front 4, and, Jesus would move around a lot. He'd swap positions, he'd drop deep, he'd drift wide, and Nketiah wants to stay in the middle because he wants to score goals. And he's not, like, tall, so they can't really hit him inside the box that often. He's not, like, physically strong. So he's almost like a poacher, really. You're going to struggle to hit him with a cross. With Gabriel Jesus, he can drift, he can drag defenders out of position, and Nketiah's not doing that at the moment. And Nketiah wants to stay down the middle, he wants to score goals. Jesus will take getting assists. I know he'll take getting assists because he used to rob me blind of fantasy points. But it's that sort of thing. I really do think they're missing Jesus because you saw how good they played with him earlier on this season. Like, that is where their strength came. But you are right about the low block thing.
Dap says he's right. It's the link-up play that even we didn't appreciate. I think there is a huge element to that, and I think Jesus coming back, it will be a boost to them, but I don't think it'll be a game-changing boost that maybe Arsenal fans think it's going to be. I think it'll definitely be like a great he's back, and he's going to offer us a little bit more than Nketiah did. But the overall problem with Arsenal is, with Brentford and with Everton, was that they couldn't break them down. They didn't know how to break them down. They were struggling to create chances. When their beautiful, free-flowing, fast-paced football wasn't doing the business they wanted it to, they didn't have an option, a plan B. They didn't know how to revert to something else, like the City of Oldwood. If you're looking at the Centurions, the 18-19 team, they could happily do possession-based football, ticky-tack it, knock it around, and when they needed to, they could go route one and lob it over the top for Sane or Sterling or Aguero. We had options upon options and diversity in our tactic book, in what we wanted to do. Arsenal appear to not have that, and that's what separates you from winning the title and not winning the title. When you play against different types of opposition every single week, or a bit of a blueprint becomes available as to how you can stop Arsenal, it's how do you counteract that blueprint? And Arsenal failed, unfortunately, against Everton and Brentford to counteract that blueprint. It's quite clear that Everton offered the blueprint. This is how you stop them. They don't seem to have a plan B. Brentford came into the same thing. Did the same thing to us, and we didn't really have a plan B that day either. But that's the problem with Arsenal, and it's the first problem they've had to face all season. Every game they've played, this fast-paced, flowing football they've done under Arteta, it's worked all season. The intensity has got them there. The momentum's got them over the line, and all of a sudden that momentum slows down, and that intensity is counteracted by a team who wants it as much as you do. How do you switch up? How do you fix that? Do you have a plan B? Like, if it's not working, what do you do, bro? Arteta, get out your tactic book and show us what you can do now. And it's going to be the same thing. What happens if City suffocate them? Arsenal haven't played against a team properly who play possession-based football. We play possession-based football. How are Arsenal going to do on the back foot when they don't have all the ball? I am willing to concede the fact that we will have slightly less ball, because when Arsenal do it, they'll retain it well. But when we have possession and we're retaining it, how do Arsenal cope with that? Do they set up in a low block, the way Tottenham and Man United did? Do they come and press us high? And how do we cope with that? It's all uncharted territory for Arsenal. These are unanswered questions. People talk about Arsenal passing test after test after test. These are the real tests, man. These are the A-levels. These aren't GCSEs anymore. These are the ones that determine how you do in your life. It's getting a bit more rough for Arsenal. So I want to know. I want to know these answers, and we're going to get them on Wednesday night. Listen, there's still 75 in the building, man. Get in your thoughts. We're talking a bit too much about Wednesday, because I am going to do a preview, and I might get an Arsenal fan on if there's one around. If Dap is about, maybe I'll get him on for a stream. We'll talk about it too, because it's obviously a massive, massive week against Arsenal. But listen, get in your thoughts on everything we're saying. We're going to wrap it up in about 5 minutes' time. 69 likes, you cheeky citizens. Says
Get up, bro.
Get it above 69, man. That's a bit. It's a bit weird. What are we saying though? Any more thoughts?
I mean, if I was Arsenal, I'd do what Man United did and what Spurs did. If I'm Arsenal, I'd do that, because I said before that the title's still in Arsenal's hands, which I still believe is true. Because yes, we can still change that. It is still like kind of in our hands, because if we do beat them, then it becomes in our hands. But the onus is on us to go and beat them. They don't have to get a win. If they get a couple of draws, if they get 2 draws in the 2 games against us, they're still clear. It's in their hands. They're still clear. They don't need to win.
More points, Joe. I promise you, they'll drop more points unexpectedly.
But this is what I'm saying. This is why, if I was Arteta, I'd almost try doing what United do and go, right, counter-attack them. They're weak on the counter. We've seen United do it. They got a result. We've seen Spurs do it. They got a result. Sit there, hit them on the counter. We don't need to win the game. They need to win the game. We can take a draw.
But my issue with that is United and Tottenham play like that week in, week out for years. Arsenal don't play like that. Arsenal are coached they're coached and conditioned to play possession-based football. It's so much easier said than done to just switch from one style of play to a polar opposite style of play. Do they have the players that can do that? Do you trust is Martinelli as good as what Rashford does? I don't think so. Have they got the players that can pounce on us quickly like that? Maybe.
It's easier said than done. But you need to coach these things. You need to, like you said, they don't have a plan B. They need to implement some sort of plan B where they can sit back and counter-attack. Even if it's just so they can use that for sort of 20 minutes when they're under the cosh in a game, when they're on the back foot in a game, when they're 1-0 up protecting the lead and the other team's got the ball. Even if they're just doing that, they need to have that in their locker to be able to counter-attack, because City can do that. With the addition of having an absolutely rapid number 9 up front, City can now sit back at 1-0, 2-0, sit back, let the other team have the ball and break. One long ball forward. We can do that now. We never did that. We were screaming for that for the last 2 seasons, that we weren't counter-attacking. There was no pace on the break. It was so slow. We were never getting anything as soon as the ball turns over. Arsenal need to learn how to do that, because that is what wins you leagues. We've been screaming this for the last couple of years. you need a plan A, you need a plan B, you need a plan C, you need different ways to do things, because that is how you get over the line, because different teams play in different ways. And that is the whole point about the Gabriel Jesus. He opens up so much more options to play. He can get up and involved in the intricate play. He has improved in holding up the ball. He's still not the greatest. But that's why I think that he's a big miss for Arsenal, but he's not the game changer. I mean, you see what City can do. We can go 2 up front. We have that plan B of being able to go 2 up top. Arsenal, they don't have that at the moment because Gabriel Jesus is injured, but they haven't even tried that at any point this season, or at least they haven't tried that, from the get-go, from the start of a game. They might have only done it when they were chasing a game, which they haven't been in that position very often. So, Arteta needs to figure out a plan B. He needs to figure out a plan B if he wants to be serious about the title, because they look like they have been found out and there's a blueprint and they're just struggling to break down the low block. Like we said, Revel said before, teams have now started the low block because that's the way they found that has stopped them. They didn't play the low block because no one took Arsenal seriously at the start.
Listen, having this conversation is making me think of every possible scenario that could come out of this game. Could City decide to play counter-attacking football? You just don't know Pep Guardiola. What the fuck is he cooking up in that tactic room? But listen, we're going to wrap it up, I think, here now. We've been streaming for an hour. I did a review earlier on. If you would go back and click on my review, the 10-minute video, whatever it was, and hit a like on that, it'd be massively appreciated. I'd love to get that up to 1,000 views. Subscribe to the channel if you're new yourself. We will go live again probably before the Arsenal game and have a bit of a preview ourselves. I'll have definitely a preview at a video format of myself. Maybe get a guest on, something like that. Maybe an Arsenal fan. Still loads to come this week in the build-up to that game. We probably went overboard in terms of previewing that game tonight, but listen, we're excited. We're absolutely buzzing. I'm going to the game on Wednesday, so I've got my fingers crossed. Say a prayer for me and hopefully, and for City, of course, as well. Smash a like on the stream if you haven't done so already. There's still 70 of you here. Thank you to all 70 of you for coming in, sharing your thoughts, hitting the like, subscribing if you're new to the channel. I hope you stick around. Turn on the notification bell so you don't miss when we go live or when I upload a video. And you can get involved in that. As I always say, this platform is for you as well to share your thoughts in the chat. I'm reading everything you say, and I'm reading some of them out to the lads to say what you're thinking as well. And listen, we'll see you tomorrow with loads of content. I'm doing a preview with Dapto, Never a Foul, got the Big Six. I'm doing a player ratings with City Extra at 2 o'clock on their channel. Loads to look forward to. Stay involved in the content, people. I hope you're enjoying it, and we'll see you very soon. Good night and God bless. Wrap her up, Joe.
Listen to your heart, tell me who you wanna be. We can always start to believe. Listen to your heart, tell me that you understand, 'cause you are the one for me. If you just believe, 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 Listen to your heart. Tell me who you wanna be. We can always start to believe.